Welcome to today's edition of the Rush 24/7 podcast.
With Bo Snerdley's stack of stuff, there was so much stuff going on, but I thought I would kick off the show. And I'm a little disappointed because Bo has already told me he's not taking me Black Friday shopping at 3 o'clock today. And I was looking forward to kind of a man day, just going off and shopping like two men do. Anyway, shopping right now is off the hook. And I never understood this. The first sign of it I saw last night. I'm just a boy with a bus ticket and a dream. And I was passing through Phillipsburg, New Jersey. I broadcast from central Pennsylvania, which is right where flyover country begins. If you just drew a line right up there, and then you just flew all and just blocked out everything from there to around California, Nevada, that's the part of the country that Washington ignores and mainstream news media never really gets to that often. So I'm passing through Phillipsburg, and we pull into the stop, and I see this ring of people around part of the mall. The bus stop is at the mall in Phillipsburg, New Jersey. And this is before 5 o'clock yesterday when I got in the city, when I got on the bus to come in the city. And I panicked. I immediately thought those people were waiting to get on the bus, which would totally bum me out because I had the perfect spot. You know how when you wait in line early, and then you get the perfect spot on the bus, and you get all comfortable, and then somebody comes in, and they've got 13 pieces of carry-on luggage, and they say, "Can I sit here?" And then you have to decide, do I share my seat or not? Anyway, turns out they were just waiting for stores at the mall that were opening at 5 o'clock because I asked the bus driver. So people started shopping yesterday. Black Friday has now bled into Thanksgiving. What do you think about that? Did you shop on Thanksgiving? What did you tell your family? In the middle of the meal, you said, "Look, this is Uncle Steve. It's great seeing you, but there's a sale. Can you clean up the dishes?" 800-282-2882 if you'd like to join the conversation. In Minnesota, have you ever been to the Mall of America? I've only read about it. There's 520 stores inside, and they're offering extended hours today. But let me give you the update because I've been printing out some revenue updates for you on the Rush Limbaugh Show. Target sold 3,200 TVs per minute so far, 3,200 TVs a minute. Macy's CEO Terry Lundgren told CNBC that 16,000 people piled into the flagship store yesterday at 5 p.m. That was after the Macy's Day Parade. That's where I wanted Bo Snerdley to take me today, but he's still refusing. Amazon said that customers ordered more than 100,000 toys in less than 3 hours. So I don't see the economy bad story that much at the moment. I know there are stores that are closing. I understand that. But I also know consumer confidence is up. In fact, they're predicting this will top last year by 15%. Now, there was some violence, unfortunately. There always is. And in Hoover, Alabama, 2 women sparked a mass brawl and had nothing to do with Roy Moore. This was at the River Chase Galleria Mall. And I believe someone was shot, sadly, outside of Walmart as well in Alabama. We're getting an update on that. So that's not good. The average shopper is expected to spend $1,000 on discounted goods in stores and online. Many stores got a head start opening yesterday. So that's the dealio there. We started our Thanksgiving, or actually it's our Christmas tradition yesterday. Maybe this is a big thing for you. It's always been a big thing for me. I get the kids, we climb up into the attic, and we unbox the old, crusty, aging fake tree, and we bring it down the stairs. And then we put it in the family room. And if you put a fake tree in the family room, and if you buy a candle that smells like a tree and put it in the family room, people think it's a real tree. That way I don't have to go out. Why are you looking at me like that, Bo? I don't have to go out. I don't have to cut a tree down. I don't do anything. It's not pathetic. It's the spirit of Christmas. It's more time with the family. Like, I want to drive around. Now, here's the best part about my fake tree. It sheds. It's in such bad shape, it makes a mess anyway. So you walk in. What do people say? "Oh, my gosh, Is that a pine tree? It smells so good. Then we throw in a little cookie candle, too. Pretty soon we got everybody conned that the whole thing's working. My name's Ken Matthews, by the way, filling in for Rush Limbaugh. Always great to be back at the EIB network. There's so much to talk about today, and I was watching CNN, and I don't know why I do that. I don't know if it's a New York thing. Whenever I'm in a New York hotel, I just feel obligated to watch CNN, just to get in the spirit of things. So I'm watching CNN, and I'm listening to people on CNN make a comparison between Judge Roy Moore and Al Franken, and then they're doing this analysis of all the different levels of how and when women were and were not touched. And I got to tell you, I was frustrated with it because, well, if you go pound for pound, it's more of a Democrat thing. But there's no argument Roy Moore is getting a lot of heat. There's no argument there. And there's no argument that Conyers is in trouble, too. By the way, Conyers' lawyer just came out because I don't know if you saw yesterday, but another woman accused Conyers of some crazy activity. And Representative Conyers and his lawyer said, and I don't know if he did this to set up a defense or what, but he said, there's a lot more than just Conyers, and I know a lot of the names. So I don't know if it almost sounded like Conyers was going to cut a deal or his attorney was going to cut a deal. It had that vibe to it, kind of like if you're easy on my guy. I don't know if Al Franken should resign. I think it's up to his voters. I think it's up to the voters of Alabama for Roy Moore. But I just found it fascinating because Roy Moore has not copped to doing any of this. He denies it 100%. His wife denies it. All these character witnesses have come forward for Judge Roy Moore. This guy's a West Point grad. He's a judge. He is a pillar of the community. Unlike Al Franken, which the minute the stuff started to leak out, he said, oh, yeah, I remember I did grab her boob. But that's when I was a comedian. Now, we're not getting the same thing from Conyers, though. And I think one of the things that people have a problem with now with what's coming out of Congress, and Rush talked about this earlier in the week, $17 million of taxpayer money being used to pay out discrimination and sexual harassment suits over the last 20 years. And a lot of people have a problem with that. I mean, that's not a good thing. And a lot of people are saying that, to be fair, and I think this would be the fair thing to do, to be fair, why don't we make that public since it was our money? If it wasn't our money, if it was a private thing settled privately with private people, non-government employees, non-government money, I think it would be different. But the fact that there are congressmen and senators, and I think they are predominantly men in this particular case, that spent hundreds of thousands of dollars or more to settle claims and suits, I think we as voters should demand to see their names and to find out. You know, Congressman so-and-so from the district of such and such spent this much in 2000 whatever of taxpayer money. Why wouldn't you do that? I mean, if you really want to drill down to the bottom of this, you know, because that's the big mantra now from all the dingbats on CNN on the left. Well, you know, it's not just as obvious. It's on both sides now, and this is a wonderful opportunity to really get to the bottom of it. All right, let's get to the bottom of it. Start with Bill Clinton. Of course, that's another story for another day. But if you really want to get to the bottom of it, every Republican, every Democrat that paid one penny of government money, and what are they calling it? They're calling it shush money. Shush money, I think the term they're using. And that would be the fair thing to do because it's our money. It's our money. I think when I look at all these, and I'm looking at them now, I'm looking at a list of Weinstein. I have Weinstein and I have all the Hollywood people, the music people. Of course, Charlie Rose, some more. Did you see more women came out on Charlie Rose? I think, and this just could be me, I think this is part of a Democrat get out the grope effort for 2018. I think this has been their strategy all along. I mean, ever since Bill Clinton, they have been a very touchy-feely party. We just didn't know it was literally. We didn't know that. So you're going to get hugged by the Democrat Party whether you like it or not. You're going to get a little slap on the butt when you're voting, whether you like it or not. But I'm actually going to go with some pins on that, the Get Out the Grope campaign. My name's Ken Matthews. A pleasure, as always, to be filling in for America's anchorman, Rush Limbaugh. And if you'd like to join the conversation, if you're not too busy punching someone out of the way to get a good deal at the mall, you can call 800-282-2882. Call screen. It comes from all over the planet. There's people calling in from other galaxies. Just bleeping. It's very exciting. 800-282-2882. 800-282-2882. My name's Ken Matthews, sitting in for Rush today, and we were talking about how many billions of dollars will be spent. We'll be spending more, and people are actually moving into, this started a while ago, but they're actually moving into Thursday, Thanksgiving, to go shopping. And I've seen the lines, and then I got a lot of emails. I don't know if you did. I do a lot of shopping online, like millions of people, and I got a lot of those. They said, Black Friday starts Thursday, or Black Friday savings this Tuesday. So I'm very confused, not only about the calendar, but about the savings. But anyway, let's grab some calls here. This is, boy, I got to get my glasses on. This is Laura in Naples, Florida. You're on the Rush Limbaugh Show.
Hi, how are you?
I'm feeling great. Happy Thanksgiving.
Same to you.
So what's up with you? Are you shopping today? What are you doing? Are you laying by the pool in Naples?
No, actually, yesterday I went out early, went to Walmart. I got my husband one of the flat screen TVs. I got my son an Xbox, and I'm doing gift cards for everybody else. So I'm done shopping. And
you just ruined the surprise because they all heard that, right? Or are they not listening?
I'm by myself right now.
Oh, okay. Well, let's hope they didn't ruin the surprise. How were the crowds when you were there? Did you find people were generally nice or edgy and obnoxious?
They were pretty nice, actually.
Good.
Where we were. It was orderly, and, I had a nice experience.
Well, good for you. Thank you so much for calling, Laura. It wasn't nice in Hoover, Alabama. I'll tell you that, unfortunately. But let's go to Jerry. Jerry, Milwaukee. You're on the Rush Limbaugh Show. Hey, Jerry.
Hey. Hi. The thing that you were talking about, Al Franken and Roy Moore.
Yes.
And Al Franken did things he shouldn't have done, and he's owned up to it. But one of the big differences to me is Al Franken and Roy Moore. Is Roy Moore spent his whole career, and it's basically his whole career, making out how he's such a moral paragon, so much more moral than people, especially against gays, comparing gay marriage to the Holocaust and slavery. So you look at Roy Moore. That's his whole essence.
But have you already convicted Roy Moore, though? Have you already convicted him?
This is not a court of law. This is a court where you determine who you're going to vote for.
Oh, okay. But I'm asking, you're not going to vote for Roy Moore, but do you think there's validity to those allegations for Judge Moore?
There's numerous witnesses. The same with Harvey Weinstein. I probably shared much of the same politics of Harvey Weinstein. But when all those women came forward and all those allegations, it didn't look like Harvey Weinstein was innocent. It's the same thing with Roy Moore. It doesn't look like he's completely innocent.
Well, that's an interesting take on it. We're in Milwaukee. I'm trying to think who your senator is.
Tammy Baldwin Johnson.
Oh, that's right. Okay. She's with the veteran thing, right? Isn't she on the veteran committee?
Well, they're running something against her based on that. Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you, Jerry. I appreciate the call. The Rush Limbaugh Show, 800-282-2882. My name's Ken Matthews. It's very exciting because it's Black Friday in New York, and I was so happy to see completely violence and problem-free yesterday in New York for the Macy's Day Parade. Just a wonderful day, wonderful weather. The law enforcement in New York are just incredible. And it was orchestrated so beautifully, the way they keep it safe. And it's certainly one of the best, if not the best, police departments in the world. But you see it when you come in. And I even getting into the bus station, there's a military presence here for the holiday and law enforcement. But I always tell my kids this, too. Some of the nicest cops you meet are in New York. And I think it's just because they have to interact with 85 jillion people. But it was a wonderful experience for the Macy's Day Parade, and the weather was great last night. A lot of people hung out. Friend of ours works at a restaurant. They said they did over 1,000 dinners or something. It was near the Macy's Day Parade. They did over 1,000 steak dinners or something. Crazy stuff. Good stuff, though. 800-282-2882. Still to come, unfortunately, we have to touch on what's going on in Egypt. And I don't know if you heard with the mosque attack. They're now saying at least 200 dead, 150 wounded. We've got stuff going on in Saudi Arabia, which is just really weird, the way it's starting to bubble up. I don't know if people know the full story yet. And, of course, I don't know if we want to talk taxes or not today, because it just seems like it's a back-and-forth thing, but it will work in some Open Line Friday on the Rush Limbaugh Show if you want to mention the tax thing. Just so you know, I'm for tax cuts for everybody. Get rid of the taxes, get rid of the death tax. What else? I think we should deport Mitch McConnell, Harry Reid, Nancy Pelosi. They should all be deported to England. Nothing against England, though. Nothing against England. Let's go to, is that Tallahassee? Marvin in Tallahassee, you're on the Rush Limbaugh Show.
Hi there. It's a great day in Florida right now.
I bet you it is.
It's about 75 degrees, sun. It's just so great.
Well, we have sunshine, but we're just, we're about, what are we, about 40 degrees cooler.
Well, I won't keep you much longer, but I had an interesting idea, and I've had it for quite a long time.
Okay.
I'd like your opinion, or if you know the fact, whether it can't happen that an individual such as me or any normal citizen, not in public office or whatever, can make a FOIA request.
Yes.
So then maybe if enough of your listeners today could make a FOIA request and find out who the politicians are that are being covered up with the money coming out of our pockets.
That's a great point. The Freedom of Information Act. And, you know, more comes out on that every day. We're learning more and more, not just about the harassment, Marvin, but we're learning more about Benghazi and more about the Clinton Foundation. It's amazing how much of that information was log jammed and slowed down so we couldn't get access to it until these people were out of office.
Well, there's a big point there. Then obviously we will never find out who's done those things and who we've paid for, as long as the people that are affected by it are in office and not going to let it happen.
No, that is a great point. Thank you so much for calling, Marvin. I appreciate that. The Freedom of Information Act. I don't know the forms for certain government entities, but you could go, for example, and I've done this with criminal cases. You could go to the courthouse and file the form. Sometimes there's a fee, but I don't know exactly how it works with Congress and the Senate. But by law, they are required to. They have a certain window of time. They can extend it, but by law, they're required to share stuff that's public. And that's the thing. It's public. And it's the Black Friday edition. It's very exciting to be in New York the day after Thanksgiving as people shop and the world goes on. Things continue. I made the mistake, as I said earlier, watching CNN in the hotel. I don't know why I always do that. It's the only city where I stay where I just think, well, I'm in New York. I guess I should watch CNN. Maybe that just puts me in the mindset that gets me all progressive and socialist before I go out in the street. Maybe that's it. A little Chris Cuomo in the morning sprinkled in gets me in the right frame of mind. Let's go to Glenn in, how do you pronounce that, Glenn? Is it Montevallo, Alabama?
Montevallo, yes.
Okay. Well, buenas tardes.
Well, we're actually about 10 miles south of the city that made the news today, or actually yesterday, with that
Hoover.
fight in the mall. Yeah, Hoover. I just wanted to make sure that everybody doesn't prejudge Alabama, that we're not all fighters.
I would agree with that. You're absolutely correct. It's I've never been there, but every Alabaman I've met is a very warm person who doesn't really want to start trouble, especially over a TV.
Right, and also, we've made the news a lot lately with the Roy Moore thing, and I understand people have their opinions, but I kind of get the sense, even when you were talking to your last caller, don't prejudge. Don't make a judgment on something. You may not know all the facts. And you're not even part of the process down here. So just let Alabama decide. That's where it's supposed to be. It's not a United States voting time. It's for Alabama to vote. We have a special election. So, just don't prejudge us. Let us do our thing, and we'll do what's right, I promise.
That is great advice, Glenn, and thank you for the call. Have a great Christmas holiday as well. And I'm going to say Christmas again, just to because my one friend is agnostic. Christmas. The Rush Limbaugh Show, 800-282-2882. But Glenn hit it on the head. He hit the nail on the head. Again, I think every situation is uniquely different. Like Denny Hassert, I can't believe he didn't spend more time in prison. And I can't believe that so many people in the GOP helped him along in his career when those think about his background. So, and there's a Republican. And the Republican was it in Texas, the guy that had the naked picture on the internet? He posted the Texas guy. Yeah, thank you, Joe Bart. Mike, somebody else posted. Yeah, it is. It is criminal to post it. But I got to tell you, though, it really bothers me that Mike and Bo instantly knew the man's name and the entire story. That really bothers me. Is that Mike, you're like, oh, that's Joe Barton. He's always posting naked pictures. Anyway, the guy's divorced, and I guess he was in a relationship with he made sure to say mature woman. So it wasn't pedophilia or anything like that. But, this brings me to the next question. Why are you taking naked pictures of yourself or someone else at all? That's the other question. What? Okay. Was that on the air, Bo? What you just said to me? Oh, Bo said because people want to see the pictures later. I can't even imagine what life would have been like in the 70s and the 80s. I went to high school in the 70s. If everybody had a phone that could take a picture and make a video, I think a third of us would be incarcerated or sued or something. Not because we did anything bad, but we did a lot of stupid stuff. But what amazes me is how a congressman from Texas isn't smart enough to understand in the 21st century that if there's a naked picture of you that you permitted to be taken as a grown-up in Congress, it's not going to be hidden. So I would say I would go against Bo Snerdley's advice. Don't take the naked pictures. Just imagine you can do what you want. You're a grown man. You can do what you want. Mr. Selfie, the Rush Limbaugh Show, 800-282-2882. So it's really, the floodgates are open. It's Hollywood. It's Charlie Rose. It's Judge Roy Moore. It's there was some guy in northern Florida. There was another some state rep, out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, it's just, you can't go online in a 24-hour news cycle without seeing a fresh accusation or allegation, or in some cases, an arrest. So I keep hearing people on the left say, well, this is horrible, but it's a great opportunity to get to the truth. Well, if you really want to get to the truth, every single person in Congress that took a penny of public money to pay off allegations or accusations, that should be made public. That's how you start with the truth if you're going to go down the road. And I don't have a problem with people investigating Roy Moore. They should investigate Roy Moore. But if you're going to investigate Roy Moore, let's do it as aggressively as you investigate Bill Clinton. You see, this is the problem that we're getting into, and it is amazing. The biggest thing that has been exposed here over the last 30 years, on the left, a wink and a nod, and you can pretty much get away with anything. As long as you're progressive enough, as long as you're liberal enough, as long as you're pro-choice enough, with a little wink and a nod, you'll get that's just him. That's just Joe Biden. He just likes to grab there. He does it with everybody. See, I think they're setting up Joe Biden to run in 2020. I think the left is trying to make groping acceptable. So when he's on the campaign trail, and you're down in Hoover, Alabama, and you say, honey, go get a picture with the vice president. Go get a picture with him. And he gropes you. You go, oh, never mind. That's acceptable. They said that's okay. It wasn't like a Roy Moore thing. Let's go to Joe in Eaton, Georgia. Joe, you're on the Rush Limbaugh Show.
Hey, good afternoon. How are you doing?
I'm feeling good all under.
I just wanted to start off by saying I had the honor of being Rush Limbaugh's bodyguard once.
That was an honor.
Yeah, it was great fun. We had a blast.
He's a very nice guy.
Huh?
He's a very nice guy.
Yeah, and I think I may have been the one to give him his first cigar.
Wow.
Yeah, he smelled my cigar burning, and he said, that smells good. You got an next one?
There's a whole book there, Joe. Rush's First Cigar by Joe.
Anyway, I just wanted to mention this Roy Moore thing that's going on. Anybody who falls for this kind of thing is just simply foolish. This is standard operating procedure for the Democrats. They do this every time. President Trump was not a racist until 2 years ago. They wanted to get rid of a real black man running against Barack Obama. So what did they do? They went after.
Well, they've targeted Herman Cain, Ben Carson.
Herman Cain.
They've targeted all of them. Yeah.
They couldn't let that through. It's strictly standard operating procedure. But this time they had more impetus because of all the Harvey Weinstein stuff. So they said, let's jump in here.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get this done. And you'll notice that Gloria Allred refuses to turn over the yearbook for analysis. I mean, what's she hiding, please?
Yeah, the yearbook allegedly has his signature in it to this young woman at the time, et cetera. So I do think it does stink.
Followed by the DA, and I don't think that means district attorney. That stands for that young lady who was working for him at the time.
Yeah, that were her. You're right. It was her initials. She signed everything that way.
Right. That's standard for any attorney.
I mean, the biggest thing I observe with Judge Moore is 35, 40 years in public office, not a peep of this. And then
exactly.
six weeks before he might be going to join the Trump machine in Congress and help drain the swamp, I'm sure people are terrified. But the guy graduated from West Point, and he's never had any complaints or anything against him. They all just came out in the last 7 weeks.
That same thing holds true for Herman Cain.
Yeah.
And the racist accusation against Trump, same thing holds true.
Mm-hmm.
The man was given awards for helping black people in New York City. He gave out so much money. As soon as he cut off the cash, most hated guy on the planet.
Yeah, all good points, Joe, and I'm glad you called. I think it gets down to ideology. I think if you're liberal enough, progressive enough, and you're helping that Democrat machine, you can get away with a lot more than the conservatives will tolerate. The problem we have now in the GOP is we have establishment people now working to knock Trump's agenda off the rails as well. But I think the Trump train's going to get through. I think it's got enough momentum at the moment. It's the Rush Limbaugh Show, 800-282-2882. I'm Ken Matthews filling in. More of your calls coming up. To fill in, especially on Black Friday. This is my first Black Friday fill in, and I'm still trying to talk Bo Snerdley into taking me shopping at Macy's. And you did not take me shopping just because you showed me something on a website. You see, that's the problem. You're sucking the life from the holiday. You and I should be going from store to store, waving to people. And yes, you could get your picture with Santa. I would take it with your iPhone. Let's go to Steve in Muskegon, Michigan. Steve, welcome to the Rush Limbaugh Show.
Thank you for taking my call. First-time caller, long-time listener.
Well, I know Rush appreciates it, and it's a treat to have you on the show today.
Well, the reason for my call is, and I'm not sure exactly how he worded it, but I heard something about as far as like the correlation between if Judge Roy Moore is not allowed to run, and a Democrat winds up in office down there in Alabama, that they could potentially somehow be one step closer to impeaching Trump or something like that. And I was just wondering what your take on that was.
Well, first of all, great question. I don't know what grounds they would impeach the president on. And secondly, it has to start in the House. And then it has to clear the House. And I don't think they're going to have enough votes in the House, no matter what it is, even if they try to trump something up, no pun intended. I just don't see. There's no grounds to impeach Trump. Let's say there was. They made something up. Then it's got to go all the way through the House. And then, just like in the case with Clinton, the Senate, which they did not convict on Clinton's impeachment, Bill Clinton, the Senate would have to also agree on it. And it would have to win there, in essence. So I think that's a heavy lift. I don't see President Trump being impeached. I am a little frustrated because I think Roy Moore would be a real asset to conservatism and draining the swamp.
I absolutely believe so myself.
But, I don't think it's an impeachment issue. I think it's going to be just a tougher push to get President Trump's agenda through if Roy Moore doesn't get in there. But understand, we still have majorities in both the House and the Senate, and we would have to have a lot of people go over to the dark side to try to impeach Trump.
Oh, well, that's a good thing, because I was a bit worried. I'm a Trump voter, and I don't get my news from anywhere else other than the Rush Limbaugh show and sometimes Sean Hannity. I won't watch CNN or Fox or none of that. I listen to you guys, and that's where I get my news from.
Well, thank you for calling, Stephen. And understand, on the left, they love bringing up those big, juicy words because, and I tell my other producer and I were having a discussion about this, and I said, it's so easy for CNN to drive the conversation if you're targeting people that get their news during happy hour with the sound off. So if you've got CNN on or MSNBC in your favorite bar or wherever, or at the gym, and the sound is off, and all you see going across the scroll is impeachment in President Trump's future, now all of a sudden the seed has been planted. So now you go to Thanksgiving dinner, if you've been misinformed by that, and to make small talk, you say, "Why, did you see they might impeach President Trump?" And that's how this stuff gets legs. But the reality of it, it's just like President Trump can fire anybody he wants. Constitutionally, he can. So when you see President Trump can't fire Comey, President Trump can't do, yes, he can. And President Obama fired people, and Clinton and Bush. That's their prerogative. That's their constitutional right. But when you frame it in a certain way, it just gets the sentiment going in the direction I think that a lot of people on the left want it to go. And there's nothing that puts Trump more in a darker light with public opinion than always using that buzzword, impeachment. He's going to get impeachment. He's going to be indicted. It's just like the word indicted. Do we have time to go to Jim in Valdosta, Georgia? No? All right, Jim, we're going to get right back to you coming up next on the Rush Limbaugh Show. Go to Jim in Valdosta, Georgia. Jim, we're going to squeeze you in. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, and P-51 fighter pilot dittos, and happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, sir. Back at you.
This Harvey Weinstein thing, thinking about it, if both of those people, the Weinstein, obviously, we know what he was after. Mm-hmm. He has a potential starlet in his hotel room, and she's wanting to get an act, part in a movie or something. Aren't technically both of them receiving compensation for work performed by the other? And I mean, I don't condone any of it, but what I'm trying to say, I guess, is some of these women who claim they're victims are not being totally honest.
I understand exactly what you're saying. In other words, if first of all, if things initially are consensual, and then they go in a different direction afterwards, that is very disingenuous for the woman. So I understand that it obviously it does take two to tango, and some people even go into a relationship like that thinking that's part of the quid pro quo. I understand what you're saying there. I do think there are situations where it does take two to tango, and I feel bad for the we were just talking about this during the break. I feel bad for the for the guy who's in his 20s, an adult, minding his own business, has a few drinks. There's another young woman minding her own business. They're flirting with each other out in public, dancing, whatever. I feel bad for that guy because that guy's now he's got to worry. He's got to worry. It is, 3 months from now, is that girl that I danced with and kissed at that club, is she gonna turn up? We'll be back on the Rush Limbaugh Show. Have Thanksgiving dinner, and it was a nice mixed group as far as age and married and single, and it was just a nice experience. And I think it was nice too that my wife didn't have to slave over a hot stove, although she made a lot of stuff. My wife is one of those people that she feels she has to. If she's a guest at someone's home, I'll bring 13 desserts and some and the special potatoes and the whatever. So she ended up bringing almost a meal anyway. But it was quite the feast, quite a blessing. We have so much to be grateful here for, not just food, but just family and everything else. So I hope you're having a nice time. And if you are out shopping, I hope you haven't been knocked unconscious yet, because there's a lot of people that are very aggressive in shopping. Coming up later, I'll have the updated amounts. I'm keeping track of the billions of dollars. Like, for example, one of the coolest stats earlier this morning was 3,200 TVs per minute at Target. That just blows me away. Remember when the TVs were so expensive, though? Seriously, remember to get a big screen TV. It was almost like the price of a small used car or something. And now, and remember the first time you saw a 36-inch TV? And you were like, oh, my gosh, this is like being in the movie theater. Now people are like, what do you got, a 55-inch? Oh, that's nothing. I got something that's bigger than a warehouse. Yeah, it's on the top of my car. But it's, I'll tell you, we're very blessed, the technology, and it's just going to get more affordable. If you want to join the conversation, by the way, we're in hour 2 of the Rush Limbaugh Show. My name's Ken Matthews. Check out rushlimbaugh.com. And let me remind you, in the upcoming December issue of the Limbaugh Letter, Rush is interviewing famed journalist Ed Klein, whose new book, All Out War, The Plot to Destroy Trump, details the Washington establishment. Now, I've read all of Mr. Klein's books except this one, and he's very, very history-driven. He's a very historical writer. His books are chock full of footnotes and just a lot of good information that you don't hear in the mainstream media. Ed Klein's new book, All Out War, and it's going to be in the Limbaugh Letter. Check it all out at rushlimbaugh.com. Let's go to Gordon in Halligan, Texas. Hi, Gordon. You're on the Rush Limbaugh Show.
Hello, Ken. I was trying to think of a proper greeting for you. How about hello, supercalifragilistic?
Well, or you can just go with Ola.
Oh, Ola. Yeah. That's highly appropriate. I called to tell you about Al Franken's lack of moral objectivity from the early 1980s, if not the late 70s. Mm-hmm. Demonstrated on a reoccurring sketch he wrote on Saturday Night Live with the writer, actor Buck Henry.
I remember that.
You remember it. It starred Buck Henry, Gilda Radner, and Lorraine Newman.
Yep. Was it about the younger girl thing?
Yes, two prepubescent girls babysitted by their middle-aged uncle, who did inappropriate photography and had inappropriate contact, and with these two young girls. And the thing was, since it was a reoccurring sketch, it was always a successful molestation of the children.
Oh, my goodness.
They would, the sketch always ended with the girls suggesting that someone else might be interested in what was going on, and the actor Buck Henry coming up with tickets to a fun park or something of that nature on every episode of the sketch.
You know, it's no doubt, Gordon, that SNL broke the politically correct barrier But I think sometimes we forget they went so far off the rails in this area, yet because so many were on the political left, it really didn't matter. In fact, several actors have come out recently and even said, we would go out of our way, especially with political comedy, to just wail on conservatives and just make fun of all the stuff that now the left seems to go from network to network. If you look at who are the targets, you got gun owners, Christianity, a family of a mom and a dad. Somehow that's like, well, that's weird, So this doesn't surprise me.
Yes, they regaled in attacking all forms of traditional American life, and I just thought that even at the time, I thought that sketch was horribly inappropriate. And it's Glenn, by the way, not Gordon.
Oh, I'm sorry, Glenn. All right, well, thank you for calling, Glenn and Halligan. I appreciate it. You're on the Rush Limbaugh Show. Let's go to Westchester County, New York. Stephen, you're on the Rush Limbaugh Show.
Hey, Ken. Good afternoon to you. Early this morning, just happened to be throwing out some old newspapers or parts of old newspapers, and I stumbled on a story about way back then when Hillary Clinton was involved with all the FBI files on Republicans that got lost for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And it dawned on me that this is like the start of the deep state to me, and the Clinton's contribution to whatever level the swamp was back then. And I was wondering what you think about that notion.
Well, it wouldn't surprise me, Stephen, if you go back to Bill Clinton's governorship in Arkansas. He was elected, and then he did such a terrible job, he didn't get elected the next time. It wasn't consecutive. Because you always hear him, two-term governor Bill Clinton, but he did a term, and then they voted him out, and then he made it back in. But that's where the whole Clinton, and I use this word figuratively, the hit list came from. So this whole deep state and having a list, a lot of people think Nixon started it. I think Nixon never really got an opportunity to use it. He was going in that direction, and then I don't think the IRS got weaponized until Obama, but I know the Justice Department was weaponized under numerous Democrat administrations. I mean, that goes back as far as FDR. But you're right.
Yes, exactly.
Hillary gets a pass because she's pro-choice. And I don't know if you saw this, but she's a woman. Did you know that?
Yeah, I know. But I don't think Nixon would have went as far as getting FBI files he shouldn't have had his hands on like the Clintons did.
Oh, I would agree. And it's interesting because in the college setting, Nixon is always the evil one. Jimmy Carter's the good one, and George W. Bush is
above his head.
Yeah, and Nixon Nixon was horrible. Well, Nixon never got impeached, and Nixon never did target anybody with the IRS, and he did have a list. He had an enemies list, but he never got to use it because he resigned. Because the Republican Party said, you're getting way out of hand. You need to resign. The difference would be the Democrats, they see Clinton, you're getting way out of hand. We ought to reelect you. I think that's the difference.
I agree. Thanks for the time, Ken.
Thank you. Have a great Thanksgiving. Let's go to Robert in Long Beach, California. You're on the Rush Limbaugh Show. Robert, what is the weather like? Give me a weather forecast to start off.
It's sunny and nice. It's clear. It was hot yesterday. It's not supposed to be as hot today.
Wow.
But I called about the tax reform. I'm 100% in favor of tax reform, but I got some serious problems with the tax reform as they're doing it now. Right now, the tax burden is already disproportionately on the backs of the high-income earners, who in the ultimate analysis pay 2 to 1 more than their fair share. And as my understanding, and also like 40 to 50% of the people aren't paying any taxes at all.
That is true.
And
the top 10%.
In the wrong direction.
Top 10% of earners.
Where everybody's got skin in the game.
I agree.
So that even more people are getting a free ride. And the burden's even more disproportionately on the backs of the high-income earners. And I think that's not only unfair and immoral, I think it's bad because California has the same thing where they overtax the high-end people. And when they don't do well, there's no income tax revenue. It all relies on the rich people, and it's not spread out evenly. And also on these deductions, well, they influenced market prices for homes and other things by putting these deductions in. And now all of a sudden they're going to pull the rug out from underneath all or part of these deductions. I don't think that should be done. I think they need to stay there. People built their property, bought their property, built their lives around these deductions existing.
You're talking about the mortgage deduction.
Mortgage deduction, sure. You know, prices were elevated because the mortgage, the interest was deductible. Well, now they won't be deductible. The prices are going to go down, and people who spend a lot for their houses are going to suffer losses.
Well,
I don't think they should be taken away, but if they are, if they have to take these deductions away, at the very least, they need to be phased in over a decade or more.
I think I agree with you on the deduction phase out if they're going to be taken away. The thing about deductions, and you covered so much ground there, I take it you were talking about the 39% top end. You think that should come down as well? And
it should be across the board and less playing favorites. I mean, it's like we're targeting the high income earners as if that's a sin, and we're giving a pass to the people who aren't doing that well as if that's a virtue.
Well,
they need to have skin in the game too.
I agree.
They get to vote. They should get to pay taxes too.
What you just described is socialism and progressive liberalism. I mean, that's the core of it. You penalize the producers, and you coddle the non-producers because the non-producers are easier to manipulate into seeing it your way. So instead of giving people on the lower end more entrepreneurial opportunity, you just give them some type of federal aid so you can keep them voting. And I agree. I thought the 39% should have come down. And it's always been progressive. The whole concept of progressive taxes, in my opinion, is built on envy, jealousy, and control. If we all paid the same percentage, I think the economy would explode in a good way. But you are correct about the deductions. I've never been a fan of the deductions, and here's why. Because to me, it's another way to, I don't want to say rig, but it throws something into the free market again. And you brought up a good point. You said people build their house or their finances around that deduction. But see, I think the deduction is false in that it's like when the government says, you know, this is free market capitalism, and then they favor one company over another. I think the government's doing that a little bit when they give mortgage deductions, but you don't get a deduction for this, but you get a deduction for that. In the pure state, I would love to see the deductions gone and all the taxes come way down. But your point about targeting the producers, I don't know how people in California or New York do it. I just don't understand. I mean, the harder you work or the more you make, the more they take. The more successful you are, the more someone's saying, look at that guy. He's doing good. We need to get some of that. This is the Rush Limbaugh Show. Black Friday, 800-282-2882. My name's Ken Matthews. More of your calls coming up. Something that people don't talk much about. I know there are things that are not perfect, and I know there are stores and businesses that are closing, but we also have had more upticks in the stock market consecutively than any other time in history. We broke stock market records. Consumer confidence is at an all-time high. We've also broke Black Friday records already. Just the first half of the day, the tally is such. I heard $20 billion will be made over from Thursday night at 5 until Monday. And, you know, the most difficult thing for me are the deals. And I'm finally, I had to be married 10 years and have kids before I understood that just because it's an incredible deal doesn't mean you have to buy it right then. But that's how it was. I would buy something online. You know, when you buy something online, Rush talks about this all the time, how people can track you. They don't need a chip in your head. You can just go on and buy something really cool. And then all of a sudden, that product or the product line is popping up on your social media. And that I was falling prey to that for a while. For years, I fell prey to, wow, this is such a good deal on this pair of shoes. Maybe I should buy more. This is such a good deal. I should buy more and more and more and more. And really, it gets out of hand. When you see those coupons come in the email that say 79% savings, how could you not? Even if it's something you don't want. Oh, look, there's a women's swimsuit. It's such a good price. I think I'll buy it. What do you do with it? I don't know. I'll send it to Charlie Rose. The Rush Limbaugh Show, 800-282-2882. My name's Ken Matthews, filling in for Rush. Hour 2 of the show. Let's go to Tennessee. Karen, is it Masterville, Tennessee, Karen?
No, it's Madisonville, but it's
Madisonville.
People town. Yeah, it's a little bitty farming town. First of all, let me greet you with you, Ken, Rush, all the staff of the wonderful EIB network, all guest hosts, and every conservative, wonderful person in the world. Dittos to infinity.
Well, thank you. That was a beautiful sentiment.
Well, my husband got me listening to this show some years back. I was probably always conservative, but I probably really didn't know enough, and now I'm educated and getting more educated all the time. I wanted to make a remark on this Weinstein doodah fiasco that seems to be growing by leaps and bounds.
Mm-hmm.
When I talked to Mr. Snerdley, I told him, I said, my whole thing, I'm a retired counselor.
Mm-hmm.
My counseling was in domestic violence and substance abuse. And I reminded him of the game we used to play as kids called Gossip or Telephone. And you'd start out with one person, and they'd say something to the next person in a whisper, and it'd go around 13, 14, 15 people. By the time it got to the 15th person, it wasn't anything at all like it was with the first person. And I'm not saying that's particularly what's going on here, but I think in the counseling that I have done, people that have been truly, as in Dr. Nasser's condition situation, been abused and physically violated, most people are very honest and very upfront about the trauma that it caused, particularly if it causes trauma in early years. And as the people get older, and you have people that are out there now running to the microphones, and I'm not saying they aren't legitimate, but the ones that I've been watching, I'm observing from a professional eye and saying, okay, how old were you when this occurred? Were you never told what the word no means? Was your career so important to you that you didn't get up and walk out? What's really going on here? Is this a fad? Is this something that's taking hold of so many people that it's just a popular thing to do? What is the legitimate aspect of it? And if you look at these young girls that tell this, you can see they're real.
Let me ask you this, Karen. Can you? And I know I'm putting you on the spot, and this because I have my thoughts about Judge Moore, and I know millions of people do. That as far as the Judge Moore accusers, that crop of individuals and the crop of individuals, say, accusing Charlie Rose. Now, what separates those as far as credibility or pattern, or is there anything that you see there that's jumped out at you?
Is not Moore the one that appeared on television pulling a gun out?
Yeah, that was Judge Moore on stage. Yeah. Whoops. In Madisonville, Tennessee. Karen, we didn't hang up on you. We just had a hard break. And,
hey, I know that. No,
yes,
Roy
Moore.
My mother was in professional music, so I understand it.
Oh, okay. Good. Now, because she was in professional music, does she know about guns, or is that just a question you had about Roy Moore?
My mother's long deceased. I'm just saying I get the breaks and all that. I understand it.
Okay.
My whole thing was when he pulled his gun out, I said, oh, my, isn't this interesting? I'm a gun owner, okay, and I'm 100% the whole thing. But I'm looking at this and saying, wow, and not only that's a little bitty gun.
Yeah, it was a full-size 45.
But I said, how about a Tech 9? Let's go big if you want to really make an impression. All I see there is a person that's trying to make an impression. I'm thinking, instead of going with the visual of the gun, why can you not say what you believe? I mean, if I walk into Walmart and I say, hey, look, everybody, I am licensed to carry this 45.
Don't do that.
But no. The impression value goes away and you become an exhibitionist.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And most of us that carry concealed legally, our goal is never to make people feel uncomfortable. And some of my friends will say, you have every right to carry openly. And I'm thinking, yeah, but why do I want to make someone uncomfortable if I also legally can carry concealed? Why would I want to You know what I mean?
Why do you want to present a challenge to someone that might just flip out on the surface?
Exactly.
And people are like
yeah,
this.
no parking
That's
space is worth dying for.
I won't do it. It's not going to happen in my lifetime. But I'm concerned about the fact that we have legitimate people with legitimate situations, especially young girls and young boys, having these attacks and these horrific things happen to them. And then I'm looking over here at the celebrity situation. I'm not saying that there aren't those that are real. There are, I'm sure. But it's beginning to feel to me like it's an overwhelming crest of the wave. And when is that going to stop? When will it?
Right.
When will enough people have said, "Oh, it happened to me too"? I can tell you, Ken, in my own life was pretty much what put me into counseling. I was a victim of this sort of thing, and I'm here to tell you, as a child, you don't have a voice. No 5-year-old is going to be able to relate this. And if it happens one time, 14 times, or 100 times, the one time is as bad as the rest because it violates the person. Rush was talking about this the other day, and I think he was kind of pulling back a little because he wasn't sure of his facts. I want to tell him right now, if it happens once, it's as bad as it happens when it's 30th time. It does not matter. The violation is complete. And we have a complete movie house here. Your eyes, your ears, your nose, that's a movie house. And it replays itself on that stage for the rest of your life. And if you don't get help.
Yeah, what's so horrible about it is, too, I don't think people realize that so often it is someone who you know or already trust. So that's part of that loop of now who do I trust? Now who do I go to? Where am I going to get help? You know what I mean?
How many of these people that have come forward have been checked out for having been in any form of therapy?
Very interesting.
That an investigative reporter should really be looking at.
Well,
how many of these people actually ever sought help?
What do you think about this? And I brought this up at the top of the show. Do you think that any public money that was used and paid out to settle harassment or sexual harassment suits and claims by Congress or the Senate, do you think that information should be made public since it was our money?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's my White House. I pay the rent on that building. Mr. Trump is just there for as long as he can be there, and my money pays the rent. That's my White House. I absolutely believe that open dialogue is a necessity in this case to let people know, the ones, the legitimate ones, come forward, do this. And the ones that are bogus or that want to get some free PR, whatever the deal is there, were you ever in therapy? Did you ever seek help? Did you ever tell anyone about this? Because your statute of limitations basically is dead.
Yeah.
Basically, I mean.
Oh, true.
Who's going to sue for $6 million?
Thank you for calling, Karen. I appreciate your insight. And I also think that when you make a false accusation, it should be a criminal charge if it's proven to be a false accusation, because it's just like the fake, the horrible fake rape accusations that took place in Rolling Stone. They were covered, and we all know the Duke Lacrosse case, and there were many others. And the fake rape accusation is as damaging to someone as being violated. And I think people forget that, and they just, they shrug it off. Oh, I made it up, whatever. Well, that's criminal. You can't destroy people's lives based on these horrible accusations if they are false. Let's go to Albany, New York. It's Sam. Sam, you're on the Rush Limbaugh Show. Welcome.
Hey, happy Thanksgiving, Ken.
Same to you.
I wanted to mention something I heard on the radio on Monday that really upset me from the local public radio station in Albany.
Uh-oh.
The CEO of the station basically came out and labeled all Alabamans as sheet-wearing Klansmen in the middle of a media panel group.
Oh.
And it was awful. And I think that the liberal media is ready. I mean, they're so dismissive of the South already, but they're absolutely poised and ready just to label them, all Alabamans, completely racist Klansmen if they vote for more.
Well, and that's a great talking point that they've used, and the Democrats have used that since the beginning of history. They've managed to rewrite history, and I cannot believe people in the news media and people in academia still throw that stuff around the way they do. And think about that comment.
Yeah. The CEO of the station is in academia, and he's the political advisor, and he's loved dearly by the Democrats in Albany and the area and the Berkshires. But he said, I know this is a bad thing to say, but I think this is his quote. Some of those people and their forebears may have been under white sheets at one point or another, and I think there's a good chance he's going to win. And that's what he said, basically. He's going to win because they're a bunch of Klansmen.
Well, it's interesting.
He's the CEO.
That same line of attack was used by Van Jones election night when he said this was all a whitewashing, the fact that Trump won. The sad thing about this is, and this continues through academia, the Democrat Party started the Klan. The Klan was a very aggressive, intimidating tool of the Democrat Party to keep free slaves from voting Republican because slaves gravitated naturally toward Republicans and wanted to be part of the Republican Party because it was the party of freedom. The fact that that is left out drives me crazy. And I grew up in the South, and I get so disgusted when Northeast elitists talk down to entire parts of the country, and most of these guys wouldn't know how to change their oil or change a tire, or they'd have to call their mom if they got locked out of their house.
It's you can't go down the street without seeing the nose in the air attitude that anyone who doesn't fit into their liberal dream world is a hick and a racist, and it's horrible. And I've lived here my whole life, and I see it everywhere.
Well,
I feel bad coming from New York and around the country thinking.
And it's so interesting, and thank you for calling, Sam, because whenever I'm in New York, I love to ride the subway, and if you haven't figured it out already, I take the bus. And the New Yorkers that are not in elite academic circles or wealthy contributors at liberal colleges, it's a whole different ball of wax because I was born in Jersey, so I'm originally from Jersey. But that elitism permeates. A great example of it would be Charlie Rose, who is a Southern liberal elitist, wealthy, or Chris Cuomo, who's the Northern liberal elitist, wealthy. But they all just believe that, what in the world could those people out in flyover country do without us in the big city like L.A. or New York? And when you look at the crime rates and the education rates, and just bring up the top most Democrat-run cities and look at every single factor in their governing. Look at the crime rate. Sadly, Chicago just passed 600. Baltimore just passed 320, sadly. I think they're at 319 or 320 this week, which is horrific as far as murders go. And these are all liberal-dominated cities, law enforcement agencies, city councils, and in many cases, blue states. The Rush Limbaugh Show. My name's Ken Matthews on the EIB Network. We'll be back with more of your calls. And when you go to rushlimbaugh.com, what an awesome site. It's rocking. And I'm about to post, I joked earlier about the Democrats working on a huge get out the grope effort and campaign for 2018. And Dean and his niece immediately came up with the sign and the pin and the concept. And I'm going to post that on my Facebook and my Twitter. Bo, have you been on my Twitter account? I'm up to 18 people now. This could be huge. I could break 3 digits today. Yeah, you should check it out. I'm going to put that. Well, yeah, you're a celebrity, man. You're a celebrity. I've seen your picture. Do you have that? You have that selfie with the painting behind you, right? Yeah, see, I know. Bo's got 1 trillion followers. Anyway, so I'll put it on there so you can see it. And then maybe you can also get a Get Out the Grope Democrat campaign. Oh, okay. You're right. You can find me on Facebook, Ken Matthews with 2 T's. You can find me on Twitter at Ken Matthews. And you can also find me, can I give my radio station website? WHP580.com. WHP580.com. That's the Central Pennsylvania anchor station that you'll find me on. So we'll have all this stuff up there. Well, that's good. I'm glad I got to do that. I have not written a book yet, but I read a lot of books, and I'll be more than happy to sign any one of them for you. And I could mail it to you. Like, say you want, maybe you want Mark Stein's latest. I'll sign it. 800-282-2882. I love the name Hope. Hope is in Detroit, Michigan, and you're on the Rush Limbaugh Show.
Hi. If the press is going to drag up 40 to 50-year-old history, I think they should set it in context. 40 years ago in the South, Loretta Lynn married an older gentleman at 14. Jerry Lee Lewis married a 12-year-old, and he wasn't exposed by the U.S. press. It wasn't mentioned until he went to England. Now, that doesn't make it right, but it still happens now in a lot of societies.
What a great observation. That is so true. And even Elvis, wasn't Elvis courting his soon-to-be wife when she was a teenager as well?
I think so.
Yeah, I think she was 16 or 17. Wow.
Yeah.
And that's a great point. And just by discussing it doesn't mean we're condoning it, but you're right. It was a different time. And also, how do we know if they were not being treated with respect? Do you know, and in fact, what did they say that at one point Roy Moore called the parent of one of the girls and asked if he could take her out? So, again, I do agree with you 1,000%. We need to look at each individual case, but we also have to look at the context of history. And the problem is with the left, like CNN, all they can talk about is Roy Moore right now. And how he needs to resign, and how Al Franken, well, he did it when he was a comedian, and he's okay. But they don't give you a chance to thoroughly discuss it. Like, I didn't even remember what you just told me about those celebrities, and that was often the case in Hollywood, too.
Yeah.
That a star in their 20s would marry a mid-teen person, and it was just looked at as love or romance. Well, thank you for calling, Hope. I hope you have a wonderful Black Friday, and it's great to hear from Detroit, Michigan. The Rush Limbaugh Show phone number is 800-282-2882. It's the EIB network, and I want to encourage you to go to rushlimbaugh.com and check out that interview with Ed Klein. Now, Ed Klein also wrote Clinton Cash, among other books, very historically driven books that the left, they're unhappy about. Because Mr. Klein, just like Dinesh D'Souza, they bring up things that, you're not really supposed to talk about. Definitely not supposed to talk about at the Thanksgiving table. We have time to get John, don't we? Is that La Plata, Maryland?
Yes.
Welcome. I didn't know there was a La Plata, Maryland.
Pronounced La Plata.
La Plata.
You got it, yeah.
Okay.
What I wanted to mention was, with the tax reform bill and some of these congressmen from these big states, like these heavily taxed states like New York and California, and they're all upset about the fact that they lose their state income tax deduction, and it's given them reason not to vote for it. But according to the present law, because of the alternative minimum tax, if your modified taxable income is over $160,000 for a joint return, you lose that state income tax anyhow. So
I know.
I don't know why the Republicans don't bring that up to show that this argument about losing the state income tax, how people aren't going to vote for it, how that's just, a fake, because the present law, you already lose it.
That is such a good point, John. And I think, sadly, the Democrats so often have the strategy upper hand when it comes to talking points, especially about something big like taxes. I mean, what has Chuck Schumer been doing? He doesn't even talk about the facts. He just says, this is another giveaway to rich people. And we know better than that. It's not. I think that if you have a state and you're paying a lot of state tax, that's not my problem. That's the state government's problem, and you elected the people that run that state if you're living in that state. I'm talking to you, Connecticut. California, Maryland, New York State, New Jersey. You elected those people. You elected the people that made those taxes, and you're comfortable with it. Maybe one of the reasons you're so comfortable with getting your brains taxed out is because you were able to deduct it. But I don't think it should be a deduction if it helps states individually push down their state tax. Thanks for calling, John. We'll be right back to shop just because of the website, the internet. It's just but you see these people and they wait in line. It's a tradition for some people. No, I do not have a personal shopper, Bo. No. I was going to give you that opportunity today at 3. No, it's funny. My wife, she doesn't shop for me either. We collaborate with the kids online, and I'm not one of those guys where, honey, can you buy me a tie? I don't know how to shop for myself. I'm not like that. So, but the personal shopper is what? You send them to buy what you tell them, or they just buy what they think you want. Okay. See, what Bo's trying to do is he's trying to buy me this man dress that was online. It looks like a kilt. It looks like a suit and a kilt, right? Sort of. Yeah, I don't know why you want to do that, but, but yet you won't take me out shopping today. So whatever. It's the Rush Limbaugh Show, 800-282-2882. I'm Ken Matthews filling in. And again, I just realized I'm allowed to say this. You can follow me on Facebook, Ken Matthews. I'm on Twitter. I've got about 30 people 30 people following me on Twitter. Once per show, but I never said it the last several shows. So if you're keeping track, the entire hour will be self-promotion. Just kidding. It won't be. Let's go to Pat. Pat in Alaska. Oh, my gosh. What's it like in Alaska?
It's cold and the wind's blowing.
Well, your phone's working.
Yeah, that's about all. I'm heating with wood and I'm about out.
Oh, jeez. Oh.
Hey, I just wanted to call and wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving and thank the EIB Broadcasting Network for all the work you guys do.
Well, that's very nice of you to say.
You're like dessert on top of the Thanksgiving dinner, buddy, I tell you.
Wow.
All this stuff going on with these women coming out and accusing the men of all these things, these accusations, it's not going to help you ladies get a man. We're afraid to get in the elevator with you now anyway.
It's a great point. It's a great point. People are on edge.
Yeah.
You can't even compliment somebody. How do you even, we live in a world where if you say, wow, in fact, we had to have HR training. Okay, at my parent company, we had HR training, and there's a whole list of things you can't do anymore. Like you can't even say, you cannot risk saying, wow, that sweater looks great on you, because it might be misinterpreted. That's crazy.
I just look at it as that's the socialists turning our country around and trying to take what made this country great and get rid of it, and to the point that we can't even. The other day I was down to the store and an elderly lady walked up and I said, "Is it all right with you if I open the door and hold it for you?" And she goes, "Oh yes, sir. Thank you so much. It's glad to see a gentleman."
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Well, I wanted to ask first because I didn't want to offend you." I mean, it's got
think
to that
about
point.
It. Oh yeah. There's and I'm so glad you called, Pat. Have a wonderful Alaskan not Thanksgiving. It's over, but Black Friday. Heating with wood. I love heating with wood, though. Wow. We used to have one of those big wood stoves in our basement in North Carolina in the mountains, and my dad and I used to go out and cut wood, and it was such a manly thing. But then when you light that first fire of the season and it comes out of the chimney, doesn't it smell great? It just smells around the whole yard. It smells like a Norman Rockwell photo. Let's go to it is Fred, right? Rockford, Michigan. A lot of action in Michigan today. What's going on? Is there a revolution or something starting? What's happening?
No, we're just having a day off after Thanksgiving and listening to you.
Well, thrilled to hear it. Thank you so much.
Listen, I'm calling in response to one of your earlier callers in the subject of mortgage interest deductions in your taxes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm one of those people that believes there should be no deductions. Let me decide how to spend my own money.
Agreed.
But I understand that doing away today with the mortgage deduction and property taxes could have an adverse effect on the housing industry. But I think there's a way around that, and the way around it is to let you any gains that you make on the sale of a piece of property that's your actual residence is not taxable, so that you now have a decision to make. Do I invest my money in stocks and pay tax on the gains, or do I do it in a house and get any gains tax-free? And I think that would spur the housing industry and overcome any adverse effects of losing the mortgage interest deduction.
I think that's a great suggestion and very well thought out. And what our caller mentioned before, Fred, and I did agree with this, if we are going to get rid of these deductions, they should be phased out, because we don't want to traumatize or impede the current momentum that we're at, especially now with housing, because housing right now is, the real estate market's on fire. But I do agree, the less deductions, the more control you have over your money, the less you're penalized when you make profit, the more the free market really works like a free market. It's not a free market if you make wise investments or you rehab homes and you're penalized if you succeed at it. Then it becomes partially free, you know?
Correct.
Well, thanks for calling, Fred. I hope you have a great weekend. Thanks again for listening to the Rush Limbaugh Show. 800-282-2882. America's anchor man on vacation. My name's Ken Matthews. Always fun to sit in. Got another Birmingham, Alabama call. Got to talk to Marianne and get an update. Got to get a Judge Roy Moore update for the third hour of the show. What's going on there, Marianne?
Hi, Ken. We in America are sitting on our hands waiting for our people like Steve Bannon to find the most conservative candidates that they can. But even if they're not conservative, when we get into the voting booth, we're going to pull the Republican handle, because our president needs help. Our president needs help, and we're going to give him a veto-proof majority.
I like the way you think, Marianne, and isn't it true? It's so sad that we saw a guy that genuinely wants to drain the swamp, and and he doesn't have any hardcore party affiliation, and because of that, he's got two parties that are not behind him because they're worried about losing their power.
Well, as Rush says, mark my words, we're going to give him a majority-proof majority.
In Congress and Senate. Let me ask you before you go, Marianne.
Yeah.
Do you think Judge Moore will win in the special election?
Well, last Wednesday I heard on WERC, our local station, that Roy Moore's investigators had gone to the courthouse and found out that this 14-year-old's mother and daddy are divorced. And when she says the incident happened, she was living at her father's house 30 miles away from her mother. So she could not have been talking with him on the telephone.
So once again,
check it out.
Yeah.
I'm voting for Roy Moore.
Well, good for you, and I hope things go your way. You've got a good strategy there, and I appreciate the call. And this is a strategy of the left, and they've come right out and said it. It's always the severity of the allegation or the accusation, right, and not whether it's true or not. And it goes back to what we said at the top of the show today. All you have to do is say, put up on the CNN screen without any sound at a happy hour or at a bowling alley, people who don't really follow the news closely like Marianne or you, if you're listening to Rush Limbaugh, you see a little clip. 15-year-old girl says, or another 15-year-old girl claims Roy Moore did this. Now, all it is a claim, but it's a headline on a screen, and it will become the centerpiece of newscast for people like Charlie Rose, Chris Cuomo, Anderson Cooper, Joke Scarborough, and the rest of them. And then when the truth comes out, when the investigation is done, it's long after the usefulness of that to hurt someone's reputation. So if it comes out, like Marianne just said, the woman wasn't even in the same zip code, and I know that they're saying now it wasn't Roy's signature in the yearbook. Nobody cares about that. They're just keeping it alive. They just want to keep the momentum, the negative momentum, pointed at Judge Moore. We have more calls coming up on the Rush Limbaugh Show. Plus, I want to get to that because I find it so entertaining, and I don't go out of my way to pick on millennials because I know a lot of really smart, successful, talented, and believe it or not, conservative millennials. But when I see millennials saying they're having a midlife crisis, I really have to scratch my head. That's coming up. So, for example, maybe you're at a dinner this weekend and you don't want to hear your liberal sister-in-law blab. You can just listen to Rush 24/7 on your iPhone. What do you think, Bo? I think it's a great idea. Check it out. It's all at rushlimbaugh.com, where you'll also find an opportunity to get that interview with Ed Klein with the Rush Limbaugh letter, which I have a copy of, by the way, which is very exciting. 800-282-2882. I would be remiss if I didn't bring this up. There's been another accusation against President Donald J. Trump. I'm sure it's all over CNN right now. Actor Billy Baldwin. Now, he's the middle one, right? Alec and then Billy and Stephen's. Yeah, Stephen is the really conservative one whose career is kind of and we all know Alec. Billy Baldwin claims Donald Trump hit on his wife during a ritzy hotel party in New York in 1992. Okay, so that's, well, let's go with the time. 25 years ago, he blasted President Trump, calling him a black belt sexual harasser. Okay. He fired off the accusation Thanksgiving morning in response to the latest sexual harassment allegations against beleaguered Democrat Senator Al Franken. Okay, this is a good opportunity to break this down and make sure we understand the difference between someone being egotistical or braggadocious or just wanting to hit on women, not literally hit, but you know what I mean, pick up women, entertain women, interact with women, date women, whatever. There's a big difference. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I don't know if he was divorced at that time or not. I'm not sure if President Trump at the time was divorced. But again, this is what he says. He goes, your dad is a fifth-degree black belt when it comes to sexual impropriety allegations, he said to Donald Trump Jr. on his Twitter. In fact, I once had a party at the Plaza Hotel. Your dad showed up uninvited, hit on my wife, invited her on his helicopter to Atlantic City. Okay. All right. Is Billy going to be okay, or is he going to need... Apparently Billy's a liberal because that was a trigger. I'm telling you, holy crud, what's going on with that? So, exactly. Now, this is the absurdity, but this is where we're going with this, and this is not the same as you own a record company or you own a television network or a movie network, and you say, here's how it works. If you ever want a career, you're going to have to do this, and the girl's 19 and you're 40, and you just signed a deal to do a movie. That's a little different than, hey, your wife's pretty hot, or you're pretty hot. You want to fly in my helicopter? We'll go to Atlantic City. So I guess the question would be, Billy, what did you do other than nothing and then wait until 2017? What are you looking at me like that? Well, what are you looking at me like that for, Bo? That's the truth. You're telling me it took you 25 years to get up the courage to say, and then he said my wife was hot, and he wanted to take her on his helicopter. Well, here's an idea, champ. Get your own helicopter. What do you think about that? No, seriously. He didn't say the guy touched my wife this way or that way. Liberal men, you guys need to get a grip. I mean, figuratively. But you need to get a grip. This is absurd. But, again, listen to this. Look at the headline. This is in the New York Daily News. This is a mistake I make when I come to New York. I always watch CNN in the hotel, and I always read all the New York Daily News. And pretty much every New York Daily News and New York Post, they're all tabloids pretty much. But they're fun to read. And they're color, and they have a lot of pictures, which would be great for liberals, actually. So Billy Baldwin, that's it. See, I would be embarrassed. Trump came barging in and said, hey, let's get in my helicopter. Let's blow this party and get out of here, said one witness. Oh, my gosh. We need to call the feds on that. Oh, my God. Then they have a picture of the Plaza Hotel, which used to be owned by Trump, of course. And I think run by the second wife or by Ivanka, was it? I forget. I think Ivanka ran it. She did a pretty good job, too. Okay, here we go. When Trump realized, this is what Billy Baldwin said. When Trump realized it wasn't a raging Hollywood party with strippers hanging from the roof, he left with his tail between his legs. He was in the room for about 10 minutes. So let's just review, Billy, now that you've had the courage. Oh, my God. Somebody needs to hug Billy Baldwin today. He had the courage to come forward with this horrific story about how his wife, Donald Trump, 25 years ago, shows up at a party, is there for less than 10 minutes. During that time, he approaches Billy Baldwin's attractive wife and says, hey, let's blow this place. Get on a helicopter. We'll go to Atlantic City. I would imagine at that point, Billy Baldwin was crying. He needed to be comforted. But now, after 25 years, he's had the courage to make an accusation to deflect from Al Franken and the rest of them. Yeah, Mike said he's worked through it. But this is the absurdity. This is what one of our callers was talking about this earlier. This was the absurdity. Now, every single thing any man says to any woman, I forget the gentleman's name who called earlier, and he said, now you're afraid to get in an elevator alone with a woman. Yeah, he was from Alaska. Exactly. I mean, if I was from Alaska, I would get in an elevator with every woman just to stay warm based on what's going on up there. But when you think about it, this is where we are. But you see these headlines. Billy Baldwin accuses Trump of hitting on wife. And then you think it's going to be something awful, something Weinstein-like, something like Ted Kennedy running around with his pants around his ankles. He was a lion of the Senate. Did you know that? Yeah. That's the craziest thing. Look at the way I can't believe I'm beating up on the late Senator Ted Kennedy, but somebody has to. That he got a pass on his driving and his behavior with women. No one ever brings it up. And now I got to listen to Billy Baldwin whine about my president because he likes to fly chicks around in his helicopter 25 years ago. Gee whiz. More phone calls coming up on the Rush Limbaugh Show. And if you want to check out the new campaign button, I was creating this on the air, and then we had our talented, one of our web team members from the EIB Network, Dean, and his lovely niece, Teresa, actually make up the button and put it. It's on my Facebook page, Ken Matthews, at Ken Matthews. And it says, get out the grope, vote Democrat. And this probably will carry Joe Biden to victory. Because once people can just accept that, I can't believe no one did anything on the story about 2 weeks ago, and then we're gonna jump back on the phones because I know Luella's standing by. About 2 weeks ago, there was a report that came out from a former Secret Service employee and another person that also weighed in on it. And they said Joe Biden has a reputation for groping and touching and patting in a very uncomfortable way. And he would do that sometimes with female Secret Service agents. And the story went that at one point, when the detail was at the house, which is maintained and controlled by the Navy, it's a naval observatory, I believe, the vice president's residence, and the men would make a wall. Like if there were two women on the detail, men would come over and kind of help out if Joe was just by himself, because he would do things like swim naked, get out of the shower completely naked. And now, see, those are the pictures that need to go viral right there. That Joe Biden getting out of the shower thing needs to go viral. You see, now here's the difference. When I get out of the shower, Bo, because Bo wanted to know, don't I shower naked? When I get out of the shower, all the Secret Service, they're not even in the same room. So none of them are even in the same room. They know better. But see, that's the thing. Think about that. Think about that. She would be in the living quarters. He would walk around naked. He would walk around naked. Hey, how you doing? Just kind of, And when you think about that, when you think about the power that the vice president has over the Navy in that situation, because they're running part of it, and the Secret Service, think about that. Now, how is that? I have to be very careful here, but how is that different than any of some of these other Hollywood accusations where people go, oh, I went over to meet with him at his house and he answered the door naked? Now, how is that different if they change the shift, the security detail, Secret Service, and two women come on or a woman comes on and he answers the door naked? But he's the vice president. And nobody talks about this. Well, Chris Cuomo's afraid to, but there are some people that may. Who knows? Maybe Billy Baldwin. Was there a helicopter involved? Maybe he'll talk about it then. Let's go to, is that California? Is that Luella? Luella, how do you... Guillermo.
Yeah?
Yeah, I thought at first your name was Guillermo, but you're Luella from Guillermo. Welcome.
Well, thanks for having me. I just wanted to give a female perspective of this whole sexual harassment subject. And I'm past the half-century mark, so I've got a few years under my belt. But I think that 10% of the men are sexually harassing, assaulting, abusing 90% of the women. So it's not as widespread. I mean, in my personal experience, I've had a few situations myself.
Mm-hmm.
But most women just learn to let it roll off their back. I mean, during my time in the military, when we were referred to as walking mattresses, and after I got out of the military, I had 2 young kids, and I was working in manufacturing, and the supervisor there told me that I could make all the overtime I wanted. I didn't even have to be at work. I had to be at his house.
Oh, geez. And what was your response to him? What was your response to him?
I just kindly said, no, thank you. And I wanted to keep my job.
Mm-hmm. And so you,
so
but
I didn't
now,
say anything.
And nothing continued beyond that. He didn't go further.
Oh, he tried again, but
yeah,
but he didn't physically do anything.
Do you think that the younger generation of women do not have, what's the word I'm looking for? Because I don't want to, because I know.
Defenses.
Pardon?
Mental defenses.
Maybe that's it. That's a good word. Yeah. Do they not have the wherewithal like the way you were raised or my mother? And I'm not going to mention her age on the Rush Limbaugh show because then she's going to slap me because I mentioned it on my other shows once. But she's 70 plus, put it that way. And those women grew up with the boyfriend or the husband would either come over and knock your lights out if you mess with the woman, or the woman would. Or the woman would say, look, you do that again, I'm going to hit you in the head with a shoe.
One of my girlfriends, we were together in a park, and there was a situation that arose that some guy came over and, made some kind of insinuating sexual thing, and she threw a hot cup of coffee in his face.
Well, there you go. Well, see, I'm just wondering, I think men are, as we heard from Billy Baldwin's whining, men are not equipped to do what their number one job is. And I think the man's number one job, call me crazy, but I agree with Burgess Owens, who wrote that wonderful book called Liberalism. The man's number one job is to protect his family and to protect the women in his family and the children in his family. And I think we have many liberal men in particular not equipped. And I think we have women that are afraid to use the power that they have. Like you did.
that if you asked your next 10 female callers if they've ever had a situation in their life where they have been at least sexually harassed, 9 out of 10 will say yes.
Well, your statistic, and I know you were just, ballparking it, but what you said made a lot of sense, that 10 or 20% of the men are doing 90% of the harassing, and that's true.
Yeah.
Most men...
Because most men I deal with, whether it's work, whether it's shopping, whether it's whatever, most men are gentlemen.
I would agree with that. And unfortunately, that has to be taught. And, if liberal and progressive academia has its way, they're going to make sure that none of that stuff is taught because they don't want you saying he or she or sir or ma'am. So it's just going to get more challenging and more confusing.
Yeah.
But I appreciate the call, Luella. Thank you so much for calling and your candor. And I would imagine people would agree with that. The thing that always shocks me, and that is you hear about some of these accusations. I always wonder, where is the man? Was there another man in the dynamic? When Harvey Weinstein was doing whatever, was there a man that could have come in and said or done something to Harvey? Now, there was a story, I don't know if you saw this, but Angelina Jolie, I guess, allegedly Harvey Weinstein gave her some trouble verbally or something, and Brad Pitt cornered him and basically set him straight. That's the story that's circulating. So right there, I'm thinking, wow, Brad Pitt doing what a man's supposed to do. And I often wonder, now obviously women are not going to tell. They may not tell. They may be afraid to tell their husband. They may be afraid to tell their father or their boyfriend. But I do wonder what's happening to fathers and boyfriends and husbands in our culture, or if they're just being so defanged that if something like that were to happen to someone you care about, you've been trained to say, well, I guess we're just going to have to file a complaint. Because my dad would just pound your head in. But again, you can't do that, though. You're not allowed to pound people's head in anymore. Boy, that's a bummer, huh? 800-282-2882. It was a joke before you file a complaint. 800-282-2882. I'm Ken Matthews in for Rush Limbaugh. Coming right back. And I just saw the word Debbie Wasserman Schultz pop up, and my stomach became upset. What's it all about? Immediately, I started going, oh, my God, give me a search.
It's really great to talk to you today, Ken. I'm one of these people that can never listen to Rush live. So thank you for the Rush 24/7. Otherwise, I'd never hear about this stuff.
Oh, excellent.
Ever since I found out that Debbie Wasserman Schultz had these Pakistani family IT people out there, and I thought, oh, okay, maybe it wasn't the Russians. Maybe it was this Pakistani IT family, or maybe it's all connected somehow.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like completely gone away. We're not supposed to look at that right now. We're supposed to look at all these perverts in Congress or Hollywood, whatever. But we're not supposed to look at this, and it's driving me crazy.
Well, it's interesting that you brought that up, Pat, because if you look at some of the biggest stories of the last month, the horrible shooting in Vegas, the horrible church shooting in Texas, the recent terrorist attack in New York, look how quickly the news media sweeps them off center stage without even fully investigating it. We don't even have answers to those things yet. The media just sweeps it right off and goes back to what? Trump and Russia.
Never get any answers.
Yeah, Trump and Russia, Roy Moore and the teenagers, and they just sweep off one of the most.
And
yeah, go ahead.
When we try to say, well, there's nothing to Trump and Russia, they go right back to Trump and Russia. You know, it's like, they're just 100%. And if they're not talking about Trump and Russia, they're talking about climate change and how we're all going to, burn up or whatever we're going to do.
Well, no, you're so right. They control the agenda. And that is I think that's why talk radio is successful, and the various news sources. I mean, think about the talk radio and the pre-social media world, we basically had 3 networks, and they all told us what to believe. They told us who was good, who was bad. This is what the weather is. This is what this person believes, etc. And now I think the challenge is to make sure people have the sources to go to. Like you mentioned, Rush 24/7 coming up. That is such a source of information.
It's a lifesaver for
yeah,
me.
that's something you want to share with friends. And also, check out the Limbaugh letter. That makes a great gift.
Yeah, I do the Limbaugh letter too. You know, I mean, it's the only way I can get decent information about what's really going on out there, because they all want you to look at whatever they want you to look at. And I love the fact that Rush told us all the time, you know, don't group think.
Yeah.
If he finds himself group thinking, then he goes, wait a minute, there's something wrong here. I'm not seeing something or whatever, you know?
Very good. Very good observations. Pat, thank you so much for calling, and all the best. Have a wonderful Christmas as well, because I know that's right around the corner. We can squeeze Jake in from Barstow, California. How are you, sir?
I'm fine, thank you. I just wanted to say real quickly, commenting on the Alabama elections. You know, personally, I never really cared about what was going on locally and who was running what, never even knew. But my viewpoint completely changed. We have got to stop any leftists or socialists trying to take over the country. And right now, you know, with Bernie Sanders had been running instead of Hillary, that he might have won, reading that somewhere, that really scares the heck out of me now.
Well, you know, and it should, and that's something else that, because of all the conflict and scandal, so little attention was really paid to Bernie's ideology, which was pure socialism. Pure socialism. And keep in mind, the unions, many supported Bernie. Think about all the people in the Democrat Party. Now, you know this, Jake, but a lot of people probably don't realize that until Debbie Wasserman Schultz and Hillary and the DNC started to railroad Bernie, he was getting momentum. And what scared me about that was he's a socialist. And how could he get momentum in the greatest country, the freest country, the most capitalist country in the world? And you hit the nail on the head. It's local. If we don't get more conservatives in positions where they can change the direction of legislature, like the Senate and the House, we're in trouble.
You know, before, I didn't care, you know, whoever was running. The only thing that mattered to me was, you know, president and my senator and Congress. I didn't care whatsoever. And then a friend gave me a book and completely changed my viewpoint.
What was the book?
It's called Enemy of the People.
Who wrote that? Do you remember?
It's a Kindle book.
Okay. Enemy of the People. I'm going to look that up. That sounds interesting. I'm going to have to check that out. Well, I appreciate the call, Jake. Have a good Black Friday, the great remainder of your Thanksgiving weekend. It's the Rush Limbaugh Show. I'm Ken Matthews. A few seconds left, and we'll be right back. Quick shout-out. Bo said I can give quick shout-outs to my brother and his wife in North Carolina, and my family in New Jersey, my mom and dad in Florida, and everybody at the soup kitchen working with my mom. My mom's like a little mini celebrity now, because she dropped that in the soup kitchen one day. Some guy was talking about Rush Limbaugh in a good way, as millions of people do, and she said, "Oh, I forgot to mention my son's filling in for Rush." So I'm going to go down there and, you know, check it all out the next time I'm down there. Who else? Oh, yeah, sling some soup, exactly. And, of course, my beautiful family in Central PA, my wife and my 2 sons. I have this weekend off, which is very, very exciting. And, again, I encourage you to shop, but do it after the crowds have dissipated. Have a safe holiday, and thanks again for listening.